I think if you remain idle, your competition's going to catch up to you. You're going to watch your margins erode, and it's not going to be a good outcome.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook, presented by Details Interactive. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. This is episode number 140, and my guest is Scott Silverman. Scott is someone who's been shaping digital commerce since before most of us even called it e-commerce. He's a co-creator of CyberMonday, a former leader of Shop.org at the NRF, and the co-founder of CommerceNext, which was acquired in 2023. In this conversation, we talk about how retail really got here, what's broken now, and why AI and agentic commerce are already changing how consumers search, shop, and decide. If you work in commerce, marketing, or digital strategy, this episode is one you'll want to lean into. Before we get started, a quick thank you as always to Max Branstetter of the Wild Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining the Marketing Playbook Podcast. With over 25 years of experience, Scott Silverman has connected thousands of e-commerce leaders to help them learn, network, and share knowledge with the end goal of scaling their business and careers. From co-inventing CyberMonday in 2005 to founding industry-shaping organizations like CommerceNext and the Global E-Commerce Leaders Forum, also known as GELF, Scott's work sits at the intersection of retail innovation and community building. Scott spent over a decade until 2010 as executive director of Shop.org, the National Retail Federation's digital division. Under his leadership, the organization grew to over 600 member companies and launched the Shop.org Annual Summit, which became one of the fastest 50 trade shows in the United States. A champion of the next generation, Scott also launched CyberMonday.com, which generated over $2.5 million for retail scholarships. After leading CommerceNext through its 2023 acquisition by Closer Still Media, Scott now splits his time between advising the CommerceNext team and investing and advising in high-growth technology startups serving the retail and e-commerce industries. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. I'm flattered to be among your many impressive guests, and you're someone that we've been in the same industry for probably more years than we both want to admit, but someone, I admire and respect, and like so many other people in the industry. So thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure, and thanks for the kind comments. Yeah, there's been 140 or so shows over now 6 years. Glad that you could join me. We always start the show getting the guest's first story. Where did you grow up? How that might have been indicative of the career you have had.
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I kind of see myself as kind of a hustler growing up. Even before I could drive, I had paper routes. For your younger listeners, that's delivering newspapers that people read and hold in their hands. And I was doing that by the time I was 9 or 10, and I had a lot of different jobs. I was in junior achievement, and I just always had a little bit of an ambition and hustle.
Well, and that certainly has turned out to be the career you were in and the work that you've done. You've been a hustler. Was there an early moment when you realized, geez, I'm wired for commerce?
So my first job in this industry, I was hired by the National Retail Federation in 1999 to bring together a group of their e-commerce leaders from their membership. And remember, this was 1999. This was very early on. So these were people from companies like Home Depot and Nordstrom and Macy's. We ended up calling it, I gave it a very bad name at the time, the Internet Retailing Advisory Council, or IRAC. But being around those people, some of them consider themselves intrapreneurs, but they were all under-resourced, and I really fed off of the energy of them kind of being the underdogs, but the believers in this new thing called e-commerce or online retailing. And I immediately got attracted to that group and wanted to be there as a community builder and someone that could help bring them together to learn from one another, network, and share information.
Before NRF started, you spent a number of years in the advertising industry. So, what were you doing there, and what did you think that was a stepping stone to?
Well, it was actually the public relations industry. So I worked for some different PR firms. I quickly learned that professional services wasn't something I wanted to spend my career in. But the most recent one before I joined NRF, I was working on the America Online account, the AOL account, and I had some pretty nice access to Steve Case. I got inspired by his vision for the internet. There was certainly some commerce that AOL was thinking about, and that really lit up my brain about the internet and e-commerce. And I don't know how if you remember a magazine called the Industry Standard in that space, and the National Retail Federation put an ad in for someone to bring together their community of internet retailers, and I applied to that and got hired.
The NRF, my first experience, I think, was through shop.org. I don't remember exactly the years, but around 2000, I was at Brooks Brothers, and I went there to run their very nascent e-commerce business. That's right around the time when shop.org was getting going, right?
Shop.org was happening at the same time as NRF, and NRF ended up acquiring it. So shop.org decided to put an RFP out to get them. They were being managed by a part-time association manager, and they wanted to be associated with a bigger organization. And so while I was at NRF, we filled out the RFP and ended up acquiring shop.org. And so that became the online division of the National Retail Federation.
What void or what were you trying to help people do at that time? Was it educational? Was it connecting, people that needed to find others that were in the space? What was kind of the goal of the organization?
I mean, I joke around a lot that we helped facilitate a lot of commiseration. And I mentioned earlier about these entrepreneurs that were under-resourced, and they also could be making really expensive mistakes. And I realized that they wanted to get together and talk about what's going on in the industry, learn from one another, share information, and help grow their business. At the same time, as an industry association, we were also trying to get the word out about internet retailing and e-commerce. We were doing a lot of research. We had, I think, the very first piece of research that established some benchmark data around what's now called omni-channel retailing, that it was where you were seeing online influencing in-store purchases and vice versa, and this cycle where they were feeding off of one another. And we actually went into intercept some shoppers at stores and asked them if they had been online before that purchase, and we were able to establish some data. So we were trying to help the people in the industry, but we were also trying to help be the voice of the industry and raise awareness about it and add more legitimacy to it.
So, in the role that you had and the people that you were surrounded with, I'm sure there was some concern about how is this digital commerce going to impact my job? If I was working in a retail store, I worked for a retailer, or if I was a catalog guy. What do you recall, and how do you feel like you navigated that challenge?
It was very interesting. I remember one time in my career, different members of the NRF board would come and address the entire NRF team, 80, 90 people at the time. And the CEO and chairman, I believe it was Foot Locker, came in. This was probably 2000 or 2001, and completely dismissed that no one's ever going to buy shoes online. This is a nowhere thing. And the president of NRF had to come down to my office, felt like she needed to calm me down. I it didn't bother me at all, because I had been so inspired by all the other people that were working on this with the community that I was building, that I just wanted to keep working with them and doing that. So I think there was a lot of people that were dismissing that e-commerce and internet would be important to retail at that time, and that was, we were trying for, probably 20 years to really establish internet retailing and e-commerce as really credible. It took a long time. Some may say, there's still more work to do there.
It's interesting, and I don't know if it's similar or not, but because we've had lots of evolution in e-commerce, lots of things have changed, and now with the advent of AI and customers perhaps being able to find a brand through a chat GPT or any of the other companies like that, how fast is that going to happen? How quickly will it displace some of the common ways that customers shop today, and where is that going to take us in 2 or 3 or 4 years?
It's pretty remarkable how these large language models, AI engines, whatever you want to call them, have captured that they've been a catalyst for new consumer behavior. I feel like it's similar to when we started using iPhones, where like that type of revolutionary change. And we've only lived through, I mean, in my career, maybe two or three of those. I mean, maybe one was the iPhone, another was social media, and now this. And I think it still remains to be seen how much commerce is going to be done but certainly, I mean, I don't know about you, but the amount of time that I've shifted from traditional search on Google to ChatGPT, or even using, just straight Gemini, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, I feel like I'm not young, and I guess I don't change my ways that frequently, but I certainly have. And if I use that as an indicator of, the general population, I think it's a pretty disruptive difference that we're all going to be experiencing.
Yeah, well, I guess, at Google today, you type in a search and, you're getting a summary at the very top of your search page that's powered by AI. Some of it is good, some of it is, not so good. But I find myself, and I'm also not so young, I find myself really going to Chat GPT or others as my first source of asking questions. It took me a while, and I don't know if I was apprehensive, but once I got going, it was a hockey stick kind of growth of using it, and it's saved me a lot of time. It saves me time doing this show. It saves me time doing work and research. It absolutely is incredible. We'll see how it changes shopping. You interact with so many different people from so many different retailers. Is there one thing or two things that you could kind of point to that people ask you all the time? I'm going to ask Scott and see what he has to say.
Mostly it's around finding a new job. We're in a really interesting time, and I've talked about this before, that we had this huge growth in e-commerce up until and through COVID and a little bit after. And then I refer to it as this extended COVID hangover that I think we're still in. And we're finding that many retailers are not investing as much, or making really bold moves or aggressive strategies related to digital. And that cascades into their organizational structure, which is why I think we see so many talented e-commerce leaders, P&L owners of digital that are fractional now or on the sidelines and doing consulting, and we're just not seeing teams being built out and retailers and brands investing in this kind of talent that knows how to facilitate change and to navigate through new technologies. And I think it's a mistake. I remain hopeful that that's going to change.
We are recording this show in the early part of February, and there's a number of retailers in the news. There's been lots of layoffs. We've seen them from Amazon and some from Walmart, and I'm sure we're unfortunately going to see others. We've also seen some bankruptcies, and I'm going to get your take on this. Some are created out of financial restructuring, perhaps like the Saks global bankruptcy. And if we believe the news, Eddie Bauer is on the verge of also filing Chapter 11. So what do you make of the company layoffs as well as the bankruptcies that we're seeing?
It's a lot of different things. I think some of these companies are being squeezed on, both sides, on the Amazon and Walmart that's grabbing market share, and maybe also from some of the specialty retailers, maybe some of the digital natives that are doing that, brands that are investing more in online. So I think there's that. And I think it's also about not making bold moves and not moving forward aggressively enough, not taking big bets. And I think if you remain idle, your competition's going to catch up to you. You're going to watch your margins erode, and it's not going to be a good outcome.
The devil is in the details. You probably have heard that phrase time and time again in your professional life. Projects get started with great intentions, but you no longer have the time to pay attention to the little things that could make the difference between success and failure. At Details Interactive, you can discuss your business with a seasoned direct-to-consumer marketing executive who's helped launch and grow web businesses and integrate multi-channel marketing initiatives. Learn more at detailsinteractive.com. So you had this foundational, what I call foundational role in your career at NRF, and then you decide you want to do something on your own. So let's talk about CommerceNext and how that became the force that it is.
I mean, I feel like my whole career I have been in this position of bringing e-commerce leaders and retailers together for information sharing, learning, networking. And once so I left shop.org. I went to co-found a SaaS startup called I Feel Goods. It wasn't what I was hoping it was going to be. I was more focused on sales than marketing, and I learned a lot about startups and what was involved in that. But eventually I kind of got back and started doing things on my own, and then eventually got tied with Veronica Sonsev and Alan Dick. And we all had our own jobs, separate gigs at the time that we were doing, but we were also doing this as a side gig. And it started accelerating. We made a conference into it, and then COVID happened, and all the other things that we were doing, we couldn't do because most of them were based on people being in person. And we leaned in really hard on all of the online. So we were doing online lunch and learns and online summits, and much of our competition was pretty idle. They weren't doing a whole lot. And we actually grew our community, and we got a little bit lucky. So when we first went to go in person or have our event again in person, it was right between two, like Delta and Omicron of COVID. And we got fortunate. We were able to bring everyone together. It was a great event. And then that was in 2021, I think, in the fall of 2021. And then from there, we really expanded and kept growing. And some of the things that we were doing virtually we kept doing like webinars, but many of the things like the lunch and learns, we decided not to do that and really focus on the in-person activities.
There's so much competition, so many different conferences out there. Sponsors can only spend X amount of dollars. People can only, spend a certain amount of money to travel and to be away from the office. What do you think were the one or two things that you all hit on that, actually got people to come to your conference?
It is a very competitive space out there that CommerceNext is a part of. I think between Veronica Allen and myself, we have a pretty extensive network of relationships in the industry. And I hope, and like I feel like the perception that we have is that we really care about the industry and we're genuine about bringing good content and valuable information and really helping people's careers and helping them grow their business. And I feel like that was really important in our brand and what we were representing that allowed us to grow and succeed.
You were a founder of this business. Are there some things that you learned about being a founder that you were surprised by?
I think the importance of having other co-founders that would complement your strengths and different founders that would bring different talents to help build the business and being able to work together and finding your lane, but helping each other out at the same time, I think was what I learned. And I had been a do-it-yourself, do everything myself type of person before that, and that was a big change and something I needed to embrace. And as I embraced it, it really paid off.
You meet so many people, have met so many people. Obviously, when somebody's got it versus not having it. What are those characteristics that you have found that help to differentiate the real stars in digital commerce versus other people?
It's a real combination. I think there needs to be constant curiosity. There's technical knowledge, financial knowledge, and the ability to exchange ideas with the CFO, being data driven as you would expect, and being collaborative because, especially in an omni-channel retailer, you need to collaborate with the IT side, with supply chain, with the finance team to build out the business. And so those are some of the things that I, have noticed that folks that have that combination of skills end up being pretty good within e-commerce.
I knew you for a very long time, through the industry, just like the things you're saying. And I don't know where I was, but I had no idea of your involvement with the term Cyber Monday. Tell us that story.
As I mentioned earlier, NRF had done a lot of industry research, and then shop.org continued that once it became part of NRF. One of the things that we did is we surveyed our retailers and we surveyed consumers and asked them about when they were seeing a surge in, either when they were shopping online and during the holiday season in a big way, or if you were the retailer, when were you starting to see a surge in orders? And we saw that it was the Monday after Thanksgiving. It was at that time partly due to the fact that people didn't have necessarily high-speed internet in their homes that they had at the office, and they would do a lot of shopping at work. And also you can shop at work and still surprise your family and loved ones because they're not looking over your shoulder and seeing what you may buy. So we put this press release out. We gave it the name Cyber Monday, for better or for worse. The Wall Street Journal picked it up, and we learned how influential one publication could be because within 24 hours, a number of different news outlets had picked up that story, including broadcast outlets. There was a story about it on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and then all of a sudden we were seeing it and the late night TV shows. And this all took the entire industry by surprise. But then by the next year, I think it was 2006, everyone decided they were going to have Cyber Monday sales and they were going to make it part of their marketing cadence. And it became this self-fulfilling prophecy, and then just, snowballed from there. It was really fun to be a part of, and it was my 15 minutes of fame for sure.
I have a buddy that I work with, a guy named Teddy, and I told him that I was interviewing you today, and I told him about the Cyber Monday. So his first comment was, "Find out if Scott gets any residuals from the name Cyber Monday."
I don't, but I have a really good outcome for that, which is because I was right in the middle of it. I registered cybermonday.com, and we turned that into an affiliate site. The shop.org members supported it, put their offers on there, and it was a fundraiser for a scholarship that shop.org put called the Ray Greenlee Scholarship, and it was named after one of my colleagues who had passed away from lung cancer. So we were able to raise over $2.5 million through cybermonday.com. That was providing scholarship money for students that wanted to pursue e-commerce, and it was a way to honor a member of the early shop.org team. So I felt really good about that outcome.
That's a great story. Thanks for sharing. CommerceNext was sold in, I think, was 2023. Tell us what you're doing now, Scott.
I describe myself in a couple of different ways. I'm semi-retired, but I cannot stay away from the industry and the people in it who I've formed so many friendships, and I have so much respect for people in the industry. I still want to be a part of it. I have been, it's only been a month, but I was very involved in going to NRF and at the CommerceNext events and a number of other activities that were there. While I'm there, I'm helping to support some companies that I'm investing in or advising, and just trying to continue to be a part of the industry on a part-time basis.
That's great. So you have time now available. Are there any particular things that are catching your attention, either specific people that are doing, startup work, or particular businesses that you've been following?
I'm always looking for companies that are doing something interesting and novel, that they're usually in an early stage. And my litmus test for someone that I want to follow and hopefully have an opportunity to help out is if I introduce them to someone in my network that they are grateful for the introduction and learning about a new company or a new concept or a really interesting founder. And so I'm always on the lookout for those types of people, those types of companies.
One of the things I believe you're working with is refi.buy.ai. That's also powered by some heavy hitters and founders in our space. Maybe talk about that for a bit.
Yeah, it's started by Scott Wingo. He is a serial entrepreneur. He started, they were sending data feeds to different marketplaces and working with a bunch of retailers. And then he started a like a mobile car washing business. He's also part of the Jason and Scott podcast, and he's always been the Amazon and marketplace expert. When I saw that he was working on agentic commerce, I have so much respect for his knowledge and his ability to kind of see around corners. I was really excited. But what they're doing related to agentic commerce is that it's RE is research, the FI is find, and then buy. So research, find, buy with, in-app of different large language model sites, whether it's Gemini or Perplexity or ChatGPT, helping retailers optimize that research, find, and buy within those types of environments. And I'm very excited about agentic. I am eager to see how it's all going to play out. It certainly was the topic of the day at NRF a few weeks ago. I think Scott really has his finger on the pulse of what's happening, and that was a great way to really show how that has evolved and gotten very hot right now.
Channel Advisor was the company.
Channel Advisor, yes. Sorry, Scott, that I forgot that.
Okay, good. One of the things we do on this show is we try to give the listener 3 key takeaways that they can take back. If you had to come up with, those 3 things that you'd want the folks that are listening to walk away with, what might those be?
I would say first is navigating new consumer behaviors that are being related to the LLMs. Understand how your customers are operating there, what kind of questions are they asking, what kind of information are they getting, what role does it play in their shopping journey. The second, very different, is just related to company culture, and that's or just the state of the industry we're in right now, and that's be active and stop delaying decision making. Stop being idle. Stop waiting for things to stabilize and be on a growth trajectory. I don't know when that's going to happen. And in lieu of that, you need to act, and you cannot be idle or you're going to lose ground. And then the third would be similar to the first, but deciding on an agentic strategy. I'm sure after NRF, every P&L owner within e-commerce is being asked by their C-suite and boards, what is our agentic strategy? And so I think you need to take a beat and figure out what that's going to be. Is it wait and see? Are you going to be on the bleeding edge? Are you going to be a fast follower? But you need to navigate through, figure out where you want to play in that, and make a decision and act on it.
Good stuff. 3 good takeaways. Thank you for that, Scott. We are down to the end of the show. We do a 2-minute drill, 7 questions, 1-word answer. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. A brand that you admire or that inspires you?
Patagonia.
Favorite app on your phone?
Dawn Patrol, and I'll explain. It's a surfing app that you use on your Apple Watch that lets you know how long a wave was and how many seconds you were on it and what the speed was that you surfed on it.
Spoken from the guy who's in Costa Rica.
Correct.
The last website other than Amazon that you shopped from?
Quicksilver, because I was coming to Costa Rica, I needed a new rash guard and board shorts.
Something that you're not good at but wish that you were?
Spanish.
Oh, and here I thought you were going to say surfing.
Well, that too, but I'm taking Spanish classes while I'm in Costa Rica, and it's very hard, and I really want to learn it.
Charitable organization that you're passionate about?
Anything related to blood cancer or lymphoma, because I lost my dad to this disease when he was 64 and never got to meet my wife and children.
If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Time travel.
Other than family, what's your most prized possession?
My track car. One of my hobbies is driving sports cars on racetracks, and that would be my most prized possession outside of family.
Where can people reach out to you on social media, Scott, if they're interested?
LinkedIn is the best way.
Okay, great. Wait, this was great. It's nice to see you again. I'm hopeful that I'll get to see you sometime soon at a conference or somewhere in New York City when you're back in town.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I appreciate it.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Scott Silverman for coming on the Marketing Playbook. To me, today's 3 game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number 1, curiosity is the new career insurance. The leaders who thrive, especially in volatile markets, are the ones who stay relentlessly curious. Whether it's new technology, new consumer behaviors, or new career paths, curiosity keeps you relevant, employable, and adaptable. Scott's entire career from CyberMonday to CommerceNext was built on asking what's next before it was obvious. And number 2, don't go idle in a time of change. Periods of disruption reward action, not waiting. Scott emphasized that even when the market feels uncertain, layoffs, bankruptcies, budget cuts, the worst move is standing still. The people and companies that stay active, experiment, learn, and build relationships are the ones best positioned when momentum returns. And number 3, AI is already changing how consumers think. Act accordingly. AI and large language models aren't a future trend. They're already reshaping how people search, research, and buy. Just like mobile and social changed commerce forever, agentic commerce is redefining the path to purchase. Understanding this shift and adapting to it early is the difference between leading and reacting. Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, the devil is in the details.